there will come a day in the not too distant future where AI is generating content, and then we're going to have AI curate that content for us to consume. And the things that are going to get through that are the original stories.
Here we are, episode 4 of Star Wipes. Well, season 2, episode 4. With me, as always, is my dear friend Michael Kamas. Michael, how you doing?
What's good, Jeff? How you doing?
I think I'm crack-a-lacking, as you might say. It is a Friday. Has it been a week since we've recorded? Or has it been
At
2?
least. No, it's been over a week because we did it right on the eve of the Reddit blackout.
Before I catch you up with what's going on in the Reddit blackout, which is significant and significantly ignored at the same level, I am deadly curious. Deadly. Tell me about what your perception is right now of it.
Admittedly, I have a biased perspective, but I can see the business side of it, and I can also see the forward-facing. Let's treat the community that's made us this big in a fair way. And I think what Reddit hasn't done is balance the love and appreciation for the community with their business commitments. I don't think that those two things are aligned.
Wow, that is a beautifully said. Curiosity level, were you on Reddit when the Dig fiasco happened?
No. I'm not even aware of what that was.
Okay, so, we've got so many different versions of internet history. And, depending on your age and where you approach the internet, you have, like, before there was YouTube, or you have a particular YouTuber you follow and life before and after it and how that redefines. I love the idea of link sharing and commenting. And was a huge fan, still a huge fan of a website called Metafilter, which I don't expect you to have heard of. By the way, the whole asking questions, getting responses, ask.metafilter is still like one of my joyous side sites. And then there was a site called Fark, F-A-R-K, and people would comment in there and had some Reddit things.
Fark. I loved it. Oh, yeah.
Right? There was a site called Dig, and Dig was taking news and voting news up, and they did a redesign, and they kind of ignored their community. There was a huge exodus, to Reddit. And that's how I discovered Reddit. And it's got to be a good 13, 14 years ago, with one other thing, because that's how old my account is. Here's where I see things happening, Michael, and I'll catch you up and I'll show you a couple links. And that's going to be kind of our news section of this opening section.
Excellent.
Basically, Reddit talked to their third parties and made some promises, gave them we're going to be sane. And it turned out around their IPO, they made the prices less than attractive for the third parties and kind of missed. They've been missing the entire time in their tool set, tools for visually impaired users. And when the blackout, right before the blackout, after the blackout, there's been quite a bit of what I'm going to call not great PR handling. And I'll just give you a couple. The number one worst PR piece in there, and will go down in history no matter whether or not Reddit does, is the AMA of the CEO of Reddit, Spez, where it had like 1,000 comments and there were like 14 responses for an hour plus communication. And none of them really addressed what the users want. And I can't even bring up the link because it's so toxic that I think it'll melt my computer. But basically, the CEO showed a great disdain for this community built on people's comments and links. Nothing he wrote, nothing he did. And
then there was the leaked memo where, he said to his employees, "This too shall pass," and then it'll blow over, right? And then he made the statement, which is just, I can't believe he made this statement. You may want to refrain from wearing any clothes with our logo because you may be harassed. And I'm like, if that's not going to drive a wedge between us and them, I don't know what would.
it's the ultimate in gaslighting is, doing fear-based stuff. Oh, yeah, you don't want to wear your Reddit hat. Like wherever you work, anybody would care. Right? Yeah, so it's definitely an echo chamber, and arguably Reddit's an echo chamber, to a degree. I want to share with you a couple pieces about this in general. But I'll start with this because I pick Apple, and I pick Apple's particular quote about this because one of their biggest tools, something that was part of the most recent keynote, was a tool called Apollo. It's a tool I use every day, multiple times a day. And they're basically going, you're forcing third parties out. And Michael, I'm going to say this now. It is totally their right to price their API any way they want. And arguably, it could be said that tools like Apollo and some of the others were cruising on a free API. Nobody's arguing that.
No argument here whatsoever.
The part that's really solid still is that there is still a nightmare for blind users. Interestingly, when I look in some of the discussions that's going on that I minimize my life with between kids and trying to stay solvent and all that, somebody's pointed out that there are none of the Reddit tools, that would be the mobile tools, will allow a blind person to mod the blind communities. And what somebody said, it's like, having it's like having an NBA player moderate, or I'm picking, my paraphrasing here is terrible, but having an NBA player moderate a cooking channel.
No,
it's just
right. I had not heard of that.
Tone deaf. It's tone deaf. And the problem is that some of this is whisper down the lane stuff. Some of this is definitely a mistake in communications. There's some mod witch hunting going on. Let me share some of that with you. And by the way, look at that top item here. Why don't all the mods resign? And the whole reason that they're suggesting, there are two reasons the mods resigning make a difference. Everybody, including myself, does it for free. And there is this contingency that says Reddit will burn in hell if all the mods disappear because there's no way they can scalably moderate all these communities. They'll be full of spam and garbage. And there are a bunch of people who get upset at the moderators and feel that we're neckbeards in the basement lording over, the communities, and how dare they, and they should resign. So, and who's going to fill that spot as the internet janitor? I don't know, and I don't care. But with this being said, I'd like you to take a look here. In the theory of Reddit, the admins have threatened to demod communities if they're being closed. And this is basically one of the terms of service is you're not going to close your community capriciously. You're going to do what the community wants. And keeping the community closed isn't what they want. Arguably, part of the beauties of Reddit, in the same way as if you have something to say in life, get your own blog. If you feel that a community isn't serving you, start your own community. Anybody can do it at Reddit. And the idea is that your community will take off and that community will die. I can't speak there. There's also another whole thing that you don't want to know about power mods. These guys who are like on our pictures and are funny, who've got, who are on like 100, 200 different subreddits. It's wild to me.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say we're about 10 days in right now. And what's the state of the union in terms of how many subs are still dark? And some of the big ones have they basically said, look, we're staying dark because the outcome that's been, the plan that's been presented does not work.
It's a phenomenal question. I think, by the way, is a major problem that a lot of volunteer or grassroots organizations have is they tend not to have necessarily clear, coherent, unified direction, right? And you can pick, whatever communities you're amongst in your life. I'll point out here that there's a great subreddit, if you want to get just a smattering of it, called Coord. And mod coordination is how these different communities are looking at and communicating about what they're going to do next. Some of them are things like, hey, we're going to go dark again on July 1st, because that's when all these third-party apps stop working and more people will be aware of it. Hey, we're going to, some of us are never coming back. Some of us, and that Reddit can take over those. Some of us, we're just going to go not safe for work. So it's a warning. If you're going through your feeds, you may find some stunning content. It's a shit show, Mike. It's a shit show. And, the other logical item is, where do you go to from here? By the way, there is nobody who's done a complete parallel of Reddit as open source or anything else. There's all these federation things. I've looked into them. I've joined a bunch of I'll mention at the end of our piece here, we've opened up a Discord. We're doing it, gradually. We're not plugging it hard, but basically, if Reddit were to go dark, go repugnant, whatever, we've got another community with something that's got an established set of tools, which is why they're there. I mean, I got to tell you, if you got about 10 minutes later today, just take a quick check here of mod Coord with things like thousands of communities stay dark, admins asking mods and communities to enable a new chat feature. They deny the request. Transcribers of Reddit. Oh God, Michael, this is the exact transcribers of Reddit who make transcriptions for blind users will close on the 1st of July. Reddit chief says he wants it to grow up. Will the community let it? It's just admins are shadow banning users from mod support. One of the other communities I belong to that's a really powerful community is one called Mod Support, where there's much more of a direct interface with people at Reddit itself. Man, this could have all gone through smoother, smarter. I don't know whether it's a question of they don't care about their user base, that they see their primary money coming from advertisers, so therefore they're going to respect that and chase after the venture capitalists and the IPO stuff. It's tone deaf. The worst of it, by the way, Michael, was NBA. NBA disappeared during the finals. People lost their mind. How dare you take my place where I get all of my NBA information and chat away from me for 48 hours. And I mean, when I say toxic, let's sort this by controversial, and then we'll get to our stuff. Right there, navigate by not by new, controversial. It's going to be awful, Michael. Here we go. Nah, close it again. You only shut the sub because you were salty nuggets dominated the rest of the league. You were on some toddler take your ball and go home shit. Sorry your favorite teams are trash. What was the point? Pick a lane. I don't get how subs like pics, GIFs, and videos manage to stay firm in commitment, but all the sports subs folded. Yeah, it's pitchforks at every level, man. It's ugly.
Honest question, though. Honest question.
Yep.
I know, like me, you love the industry, you love the technology. It's something you do as a hobby, as well as what pays the bills. But you got to be liking that you had a couple hours of not having to mod, right? You kind of enjoyed the little break, or was that break saturated with pure anger, and so it was a wash?
So that's a phenomenal question, and I'm going to tell you that it was neither a break nor anger. It was neither of the two. What happens when you lock the subreddits is that it gives people the chance to say, hey, can we come in? And you can turn it off. And so we suddenly got about 50, 60 a day messages. Hey, can we come in? We don't understand what's going on. You're private. I belong here. Why aren't I allowed in? It was all, thankfully, generally, there was like one. Thankfully, it was generally positive. I don't understand what's going on. And it had a link in the rejection, about what's going on. Um, before anything would close, by the way, one of the subreddits I mod, I did get true vitriol from. I got like, you live in a basement, you should just quit. And I'm the only active mod in a list of like 12.
Do you have a basement, Jeff?
I do have a basement, in Delaware, which is generally flat and near the ocean. There are a lot of houses that don't. I have a basement. And truthfully, I like the basement. It's climate controlled. It's really gorgeous. It's not finished. I want to get more of my beard down here, maybe. Yeah, man. I didn't really get a break from it.
At you because
it's okay. It's all right, man. My general feeling is that this should be, hi, we're Reddit. We're pricing out all of our APIs. If you have a tool that has usability features, say for blind, we're going to grandfather you until our tools have parity, and therefore we're going to pour money into putting you out of business. And we're going to do that over 3 months, 6 months, or whatever. But we're not going to be a disclusive place. We're going to be as inclusive as possible with our tools, and only then can we price people out and show you have a heart.
I think the same should have been done for the existing applications that are riding on the API, because not only are you taking money out of their bank account, and the people who are building their applications, they might lose their job because now they aren't using the APIs at all. So I would much rather have been look, we're going to give you a grandfathered in price, and then over the next 4 or 5 quarters, maybe just 4 quarters, we'll increment it up, right? Just something to say, look, we respect what you've done. We acknowledge what you've done, and we don't want to put you in a bad spot. So we're going to give you this runway.
You've helped make our platform.
Exactly.
We appreciate you, even if we're putting you out of business. Yeah, no, I think that would have been very, very sane. This is such a model of CEO worship. CEO can do no wrong. We can treat people any way we want. Spez has a couple times quoted Elon, and I'm just like, oh my God. It's the same thing. Look, it's the same thing when I hear people, want to be Steve Jobs. I'm like, you don't want to smell bad and ignore doctors, regardless of the cultism that, grows up around you. And that's heresy in some levels. The big point here, Michael, at the end of the day, we still have a community here. We're still trying to do stuff. We're going to do, if we do any changes like close again, we'll do it to a full out vote. But I don't think it's going to change Reddit's behavior, and I don't think it's going to change users' behavior, because Reddit's hit enough of a mass that nobody's going to mass exodus to Squabbles or one of the other platforms that are out there in any way, shape, or form. And that's what he's counting on the, it'll blow over. It'll blow over with the mods, and the users don't care anyway. I wish I had something better to say about that. I do have stuff to say about our community here. And with that being said, my friend, let us talk about Ask a Pro. There is my shitty segue. I've dropped the S-bomb now twice. Here's my shitty segue into our first one here, which is from Ask a Pro Weekly. What YouTube channels are you learning to make social content? And I got to tell you, I went to this one first because Tiki Thunder, I feel, nails it. About,
as Tiki Thunder normally does. Their posts are always great. So if you're not following the Tiki, you should.
So here's the question from Butternut Squash. What YouTube channels are you learning to make social media content? And by the way, my regular day job, I get paid to make motion graphics. Tiki Thunder says, almost all the how-to stuff is complete trash. I'm going to say that again, Michael. Almost all the how-to stuff on YouTube or whatever, Charlotte's, I'm saying, reading it, is trash. My advice is to consume the types of content that is successful with your audience and really take notes on the type of things that work well. Man, that is just so. If I wanted to spend money on Reddit and give somebody gold, I'd give Tiki Thunder gold right now.
For those who get gold on Reddit, at some point you should explain what that is, because I've been given gold and I don't know what the hell to do with it.
You get that's. I don't know the full thing, but basically, you can award people a variety of different awards for their post. Some of them aren't. I'm going to go here and I'll just press the button. We'll see here that says give award. And the obvious one is 500 points for a gold award. You get 100 coins to them and a week of lounge access and ad-free browsing. So that's, I think, Reddit's big sell is ad-free browsing when you buy your own gold. But you can give somebody a week of ad-free browsing. And on top of that, they've got some reactions here, hearts, they've got medals, they've got premium, they've got all sorts of different ways. And you can see I have 14,000 coins, Michael. I did not spend a dime with Reddit, and I won't in any in the near future. Those coins came from other things, and people, like if I gave you gold on something, you'd have 100 coins that you could pass to somebody else.
Sorry to diverge. That was total squirrel moment. But no, I think that comment is straight on. The majority of tutorials that I see out there are land grabs. It's I can do a quick video on a piece of software, and people will do searches, and I'll get clicks on it. But I think looking at the more successful channels that are focused in the genre and vertical you're working in is necessary, because each vertical is going to have the different folks in it.
Here's my favorite one that I always surprise people with. Not only does JKL work on YouTube, it just doesn't work the way they expect. K keep pauses. JNL, I think, is 10 seconds. The arrow keys are 5 seconds. The period and comma key is frame by frame. So you can sit back and look at a motion graphic. You could download it, but you could look at a motion graphic or something and go frame by frame and see what it is they're doing. All right. That's the first of our short forms. I'm going to bring us to a second short form here. Go-to books for in-depth color theory and learning how to grade properly. And the reason you know what? I should come back to that
one. Go ahead.
I should come back to this. Yeah, you go ahead.
The reason I picked this one is, as I've said a couple times, I have a slight color deficiency. Some may call it color blindness. It's not complete, but it makes me incredibly worried and paranoid about any grade that I do, how off it is. And unlike a lot of the technical stuff I've learned in my life, I've never learned to really read scopes. So I kind of feel myself at a deficit because I can't complete it objectively via a scope, and I can't handle it subjectively because I'm missing some rods and cones. So I'm always interested on what folks are doing to learn the craft.
It's fascinating topic. First, if you notice my green shirt here, it's got Flanders Scientific on it. It's a pink shirt. It's not green.
It looks hot pink to me.
It is hot pink.
It is hot pink. Okay.
You want the daddest of dad jokes on the planet? Daddest of dad jokes is on this shirt. Hold on. Do you see what animal that is? Do you see what animal that is on the shirt? Oh, I lost you there, your audio for a second. I've lost your audio. Is that a
salamander?
There. It's not a salamander.
What is it?
You get one more try.
Komodo dragon. I don't know.
It's a lizard. The type of lizard is called a monitor.
Wow. That's pretty deep there.
That it is stupid, sexy Flanders. It's Flanders Scientific. I think so highly of their monitors for grading. Hey, as far as this question is concerned, let's talk about your view of the world. I will let you know that I've taught a number of people with visual deficiencies how to color grade. It is certainly, unless you've got really horrendous color vision, and the biggest trick is handling flesh tones, skies, and grass, because those are the three things people will complain about. And it's not hard. And the only caveat is I'd 100% want you to just have a human being spot check a piece of a piece of your show. Because honestly, if you got the flesh tones right, probably everything else is right too. If you've got something way off, everything will be way off from at the highest
No,
level.
I live on that. What is it? The skin tone line? Is that
Skin
what it's
tone line,
called?
yeah, it's actually called the eye line, the negative eye line, and
Thank you. I live on
yeah,
that.
and then for what it's worth, reading stuff isn't brutal. There might be out there a intuitive guide to learning color on Adobe Max's site that somebody once recorded in 3 parts, a lab that includes material. I have 2 different approaches to color for what it's worth. I have here is the how to read scope 101 that we start in the first 5 minutes, and I have the hey dude, let's just go and let's do some grading, man. I'm like, no,
So
like, well,
you're
that's a
high
good
in one of
question.
them? Is that what you're saying?
I'm high
You
in
are
one of
high
them.
in one of them?
God, I wish I was. I think Delaware goes legal in the next year. But it would be the sort of thing where I go, basically, grade. Yeah, you've run into a problem. Let's solve that problem and learn a little bit more along the way. It's an intuitive style of grading. And it kind of takes a little bit of the difficulty out. New Mike 3400 nails most of the resources, by the way, that I would call out. Nails out Alexis's book. Alexis Van Herkman has the color handbook. It is absolutely stellar. He had threatened, I don't know what the state of it is, he had threatened across the pandemic that he was going to update it. I was dying to see what he was going to do for HDR. I haven't seen it come out. A book I tech edited the first edition. Steve Holfish's book is mentioned there. I'm part of iColorist for Waz's classes. Warren Eagles is a dear, dear friend. We host an event, a thing called Color Space Cadets. I do it, right? It's a colorist thing. And we did a mixer. We did a mixer in the height of the pandemic that was a 24-hour, legit 24-hour mixer where we went through every time zone so everybody could be included and participate. If you, of course, there's Dado Valentic and his site and his YouTube channel. I do some work with Dado, and his is Color Intelligence. You got to keep the U in there because you're important. And FX PhD, where part of iColorist, Kevin goes into some of the HDR stuff in just brilliant ways. Charles Poynton does a great job. And the last one I'll mention that's not on here is Darren Moyston and Colin Kelly, who both have excellent YouTube channels. But the big thing to me, Michael, is that you probably at some point, whether it's editorial or motion graphics or color, if you get semi-serious about saying this is one of your wheelhouses, you probably want somebody who's more experienced guiding you personally in some form of mentorship along the way. And that's was meant to be a short form, and it went a little bit long. That's okay. Actually, that was meant to be one of our openers, our Ask Anything. Let's go to our short forms. New Professional Networking Conference, the Jump Cut Conference, jcconf.com. Of all the things it mentions here, I don't see the actual date of the conference. And the date seems to be July 15th. So it's about a month from now. And I believe it's $97 and you get $10 off if you're ready. If you're semi-thinking about being in this field and you're in LA, you should go. It's got Zach Arnold there. It's got, who else does it have there as speakers? It's got Monica Salazar, Janice Vogel, Hayden Hillier-Smith, Jordan Orm. It's going to be fantastic. The only thing that would have been better in my heart, Michael, aside from if I was in LA and being there, is they should have had you. They should have found the funds. I forget the guy who's running it.
That's Reed Kimball. And I actually, when before the program got shortened, I actually was presenting there, and we'd already done the social media push for it, and we had all the graphics and all the things lined up. But in light of the tail end of the pandemic and whatnot, it's been condensed a little bit, so I'm no longer presenting.
The biggest struggle on any conference is keeping it profitable. And it's not, they often feel like We're competing with the internet and it should be free. In fact, one of the things I said to you in the pre-show that I thought was just kind of silly, will there be an opportunity to watch remotely, either live or afterwards? Man, if you're trying to crack into the industry and you're in LA, you should be there. And,
Yeah.
if it means you got to take a day off, you should be there. If you're doing the work and you're important enough that you can't afford to walk away, you're probably in the industry enough that you don't need to be there.
Agreed. There's a time and place for a streaming event, and this is not the time or the place. This is to be there and meet folks and network and do one-on-one. And unfortunately, it doesn't play to the strengths of a streaming event.
I totally agree. Now, on that note, let's move to just another quick one. Normally, we do one from you and one from me. I'm going to squeeze in an extra one here. Which music service to use? I don't want this to be about, for you or I, Michael, which music service to use. I'm more interested in this as a great reference for somebody who's going, I need to get some actual feedback about the different services out there. Whenever I hit a blog post and it says, like, here are the 7 different services and here are some of the pros and cons, what you're never seeing is this. What people actually think of Artlist and the Artlist website being slow and Universal Production Music with it being pricey and music being top-notch. Audio Network includes more orchestral and less synth pop than Epidemic. Depends what you're after. This thread is just chock full of great advice.
Question for you. Do you think all of these services, I don't want to say if all of them are necessary, but given the leaps in AI and creating music or the, Adobe remix feature, the retiming feature, do you feel that you can reduce the amount of music services you have because you can mold the ones you like into something that'll work for you given these tools?
I'm going to say that the person who most likely loves these tools more than anything else loves them because of their search benefits. I'm looking for this sort of music at this sort of length with this sort of feel. Give me 4 variations that are similar. That's where we are today. The 2 pieces that I think remix is part of it. One is there are a number of tools that will do the biggest value that it's a shame that all of them can't necessarily provide, but would be great, would be stems. Because if I had stems for every single piece of music, something they could upcharge me for, I could actually do some level of remixing of levels and what I'm choosing to include. There's some great open source tools that are free. One of my favorites is called Spleeter. There are paid tools like .ai, I think it is. Might be one less la. Basically, they do splitting out of stems. And where that becomes powerful is you can take just your favorite service and extend what those pieces of music are doing for you. Where do I think we're going at some level? Some level, and where all the arguments and all the pain points are is what happens when I can go see this sample of the Beatles, give me something that's not going to get caught by YouTube's filter, but is unique enough and in this length. But I wanted to have more, no sitar, more horns. Man, I'm both dreading that day. I'm looking forward to that day. What about you?
I wish I edited enough to have a horse in this race. I tend to use Motion Array, but that's more the devil more than I've done an analysis of each of the platforms. So while we were talking, I actually just hit save so I can go back to this thread and see what I'm missing.
That's the ultimate compliment, is when Michael comments hit save on a thread. I will tell you, I'm going to probably run a poll next week where I ask people to really dig in and give feedback, because I'm really curious beyond, the blog spamish. How do you choose a music service sort of thing? Which ones really count? So we've done that. And I think that the other one that we have here as our sort of our open, if you will, our short form item is video editing pet peeves. With Peeve 1, this is from, by the way, I haven't been calling out the people, Lumpy Lizard 21. He's been editing or they've been editing for 15 years. I wanted to get a feel for what annoys you most when it comes to being an editor looking for new clients. I'll start hourly rates, spending time looking for clips, sending an editing reel, value through rules. And it's very ranty. It's cool that it's ranty. It's got 90 upvotes. Hey, Michael, you want to see something really cool I normally don't show?
Please.
I'm going to open it, new Reddit. Everybody's least favorite thing, new Reddit. This post was seen by 17,000 people and has mostly a 96% upvote rate with 7 people sharing it. So I think that's kind of cool that, that's about as much analytics as I get. Why'd you pick this? What do you, because this is short form.
The short form, couple things. First is pet peeve hourly rates. I get that, but when you're first hiring someone, you have to have an idea of how much it's going to cost. So either they bid a flat fee or they work on it hours for X amount of hours and then realize, what you're asking is going to take longer. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing.
One of my biggest, I think, failures in forcing people hiring on editors to name an hourly fee is I probably should have made it here a half day or full day fee. Like, what's your half day rate? What do you want to pay for half day or full day? Because I know nobody who can go, oh, I'm going to work 2 hours for client A and 3 hours. It takes up a chunk of their time, maybe over in video editing. I agree with you on the hourly rates 100%, but I think even still it should be, and I think flat fees are the devil. Especially the least experienced people have no business quoting flat fees.
No. But if someone's asking you to do something that you've done for multiple clients before, and you can get a lay of the land, what are the existing assets? Is this person communicating? Are they using, polysyllabic words? Okay, I think I can accurately judge how long it's going to take. The other point in here I wanted to talk about was setting an editing reel. First, I get that when someone says editing reel, you immediately get ideas of one video file. No, editing reel is, I think, more of a slang term for show me your portfolio. Whether it's one clip or whether it's a web page with drama, action, mogurts, whatever. I rely on that as someone who is sometimes put in the position where I need to look into hiring an editor. When that happens, I want to know, have you worked on something that I find a kernel of goodness that I can say, this will work for this project? And that doesn't mean that if you did action, I don't know if you can do comedy, but good editing transcends almost any genre. But if you're
100%.
sending me, let's say, a wedding you did, that's not going to give me the confidence to say, I'm going to give you a sizzle reel that I need cut, because there aren't a lot of common threads between those. So, and I think especially when you start looking into online services like Fiverr and Upwork, where some folks who are just starting are trying to get work, it's very difficult to determine who's got the chops and who doesn't. And having something that's representative of what you've done is immensely needed.
I agree. The really interesting, fascinating, set of conundrums here are you get pigeonholed into doing the work you've done before, and on these commodity-based services, I'm going to call them that, you're willing to take any work that comes in the door that meets your, I'm willing to take this little money for that much work, with the ideal being I want to take a lot of money for something that's a little bit of my time. And so much of it, when I see it occur, when I see the interactions, it's so much of my time for so little money. And very rarely is it stuff that they can use in their reel, that they can be proud of, because it's all pushed towards, I'm just looking for the cheapest price that I think will accomplish my goal. And having used a couple of the services, I've had about a 30 to 40% batting rate where, like, I'll hire somebody to do something. They say they can do something complex that I know will take me too long. And they go, and after like the fourth revision, I'm like, or 4 times in, I knew it was a problem. I told you it was a problem. You couldn't solve it. I don't want to pay somebody 5 times your value to solve it. And maybe that's what I needed to do. I think the struggle with Reels is, yes, there should be some similarity. Storytelling, doc-based work, I think works in drama. Drama, I think, can do doc. Arguably, a story out of nothing, a lot of doc-based work is like that, is probably much, much, much harder to cut than narrative drama where the script is given to you and you've got great actor performances. I think that the most important thing is, aside from a certain level of bar, do you like working with the person?
Oh, without a doubt. Taking a look at someone's work is only half the experience. If I find that that what we're doing is technical and nuanced, I want to make sure that there's not a language barrier, because that's something that can't be corrected. If we're working on something that requires a level of communication, language or not, secondary language or not, I need to be able to know that this is going to be a good working experience, and we're going to feed off each other's ideas and iterate together. If I don't get a whiff of that through your intro paragraph or whatever, then real be damned, it's not going to fly.
I think it comes still back to that idea that the best people to ever work with are people that you're introduced to personally. I want to mention one other piece and then let you, because you picked it. This person is really frustrated, his pet peeve, value through views. It's the idea that what your subscriber count, what your view count, the height of that is what makes you a value. Man, it's the same.
If we applied that logic, then would we ever hire any marketing agencies? Ever seen marketing agencies' YouTube pages? Right? They're abysmal. So you can't
I'll go a different way
for it.
I'll go a different way with you on it, which is, if we did it just on the metrics and numbers, man, we would all be eating at McDonald's tonight.
It's completely true.
I know nobody who goes, I'm looking for a really good meal. Where are the McNuggets in that apple pie? Where is it?
Your kids maybe.
My kids don't like nuggets. They like the Chick-fil-A ones. Sundays are rough. Sundays are rough if we're traveling. Sundays are rough if we're parents desperate in a meal. But I get that there's some of you out there who might go, man, no, I love the quarter pounder. I love the McRib. But my point is if you want to go get a really good steak, you ain't going to McDonald's.
I'm working with an editor right now that was with a channel when it was very tiny, and now it's millions of users. Was she a poor editor when she started, and now she's a great editor because there's more views? No, there's no correlation. There's so much marketing involved with getting that view count up that you could probably plug in a decent editor or even a subpar editor on a more successful enough channel, and it would probably be okay. So you can't just relegate all of that to what the view count is. There's so many other factors that go into that.
I think it's a great thing to check in on these video pet peeves. I really enjoy some of the content that's here. And I'm only going to read one, Scott Hall's, because it's just my biggest pet peeve when clients are right in the middle of the button pusher versus creative freedom spectrum. I don't mind when the client doesn't know. I don't mind when a client knows exactly what they want, dictates 99% of the edit. I don't mind when they trust me and let me take the reins completely. I hate when they both want to micromanage, question every decision, yet want me to expand all this creative energy to try and read their mind. Wow.
That's unfortunately not understanding the industry, and someone who doesn't come from our industry trying to manage the process. And that, unfortunately, is something you gain with experience.
I think that experience along the line is really good. Post people, coach people about what's going to happen so they know how to behave. When the client doesn't know about codecs and stuff, that's not the client's fault, man. That's your fault. You're supposed to be the expert in that. Okay, and now we're going to move into long form. And for this, this is not known to you, Michael. We're going to do applied AI for posts, the live Lacpug presentation. I know I put the F in there for Lacpug. I can't pronounce it right, even though I'm the one who pushed Michael to really, I think I pushed him to really switch it over to the name. Hello, fine post friends. Last week, I am speaking in your voice to present it to the pack house of Los Angeles Creative Pro user group on applied AI. What can you do today? Michael, this was a great long form item. It's got good discussion. We've kind of, for a lot of reasons, held out a lot of the AI from the editor's talk. It's a discussion for another time. Before we dig through this thread, you covered and demoed 4 major topics: text to image, text to speech, computer vision, auto editing. I figured I have the man here. Why not ask him directly? Text to image. What's your favorite right now? Why is it Midjourney 5.2?
That's definitely one of them. Yes. The one I showed in the video is a website called Kaiber, KAIBER.ai. And that's because I wanted to show how you can take existing video, give Kaiber a prompt, and then it will morph the video into the directions you've given through the prompt. And that was another way to repurpose content where you may need B-roll in a certain way, but you can't shoot there. Well, let's take this existing clip or video and convert it to that. And it's not great. I mean, go ahead.
I have a question for you on this. I have a feeling, because I haven't looked into it yet, but I have a feeling that Runway's Gen 2 of video generation wasn't available yet.
No, I believe it's, I don't want to say selective access, but I've seen the marketing on it. I've seen the blurbs. I don't have access to it, but they wouldn't be teasing it if some people didn't have access. But I
have access to it. I think everybody now, by the way, on Runway ML, excellent. But you have to pay for credits for it because it's obviously much more computationally expensive. Have you played with, and we're not going to get deep into it, have you played with the generative fill? Forget Firefly. Have you played with generative fill in Photoshop?
Yeah, it can get really good or just that's batshit crazy, but it does a really good job. If you try and take, 1 or 2 pixels on the end and then draw a box that's several inches off it and say, generate that, the results aren't going to be great. But if you're looking at for just to fill in certain areas, it's magic. It's sorcery. It really is.
We're going to pause here for a moment to see if I can find something really quick. And yeah, it'll be worth it if I can find it. So, Michael, let me tell you what I did. I went to show somebody this, and I took Abbey Road, and I just expanded the canvas, and then this. This will take 21 seconds.
That's pretty impressive. I mean, it has the generative aesthetic, but that's art.
That one there is my favorite. That second to last one. This one right here. Let me bring that. Oh, I went full screen. I have no idea what it's doing in the recording for that full screen. The one where it's on the wall as it's crazy.
As like a mural. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let me get rid of that. Let's bring this back up. Hey, along those lines, though, the next one was text-to-speech and voice cloning. It's 11 Labs, right?
Yeah. I did this live. I actually took a video of Michael Horton, who runs Lacpug. I then loaded it into a paid account on 11 Labs. I then had it say something completely different. And I think someone said it better than I did, which is it sounds like someone reading in the morning without coffee. Is that there's not a lot of inflection in the voice, but it nailed some of the intonation. It sounded like Michael Horton before he had coffee in the morning. And that's a common complaint.
I'll tell you 2 things about it. One is there's a slider in there that allows you to change, the emotion. The second is
the one and which is a cool feature as well.
They've got behind their paywall, but they've got their paywall, but they've got an enterprise class that's beyond it that requires, I believe, hand training at this point. But it's the one that they're talking about being the crazy one. And Meta supposedly, 2 days ago said, we have one that's so good we can't release it. which must mean that Zuck, you're able to generate Zuck calling everybody and telling them they've got 100,000 pieces of Facebook stock. Just come on down today.
The real holy grail of this is like speed ramps and NLEs, when we can use Bezier curves and keyframes to have inflection in the delivery and have it change based on those keyframes. That's when the adoption is just going to be huge.
I'll give you the one that I hope happens before that, is the idea that you could record your emotional read, but then have it generate somebody else's voice.
When I demoed this at Lacpug, later on that night, someone came up to me and said, "We do that. Let's talk." And we've been trading emails. So I'm hopefully by the time we record this next, I'll be able to say, "Look, this technology already does it."
How about computer vision?
Computer vision was the piece de resistance, which is a very bad way of phrasing it. Let's try that again. Piece de resistance. Is that better?
Sure.
No?
Sure. Anyway, my French is pretty tight, and I don't care. It's all right. We get it. Yeah.
It's a technology that does all of that, meaning it's looking at the content in the frame, understanding context, understanding objects, inanimate objects, not inanimate object. I'm sorry. Things like, hat and dog and wall, and it understands context. It understands speech to text and captions and on-screen graphics. And that's an enterprise solution. And that's done by a company called Gray Meta. And they have a product called Curio that's been doing this for years with their own models. And it's what I firmly believe is the future of searching and finding media. So instead of searching on objective media names like who's in it, who uploaded it, etc., you now are asking, what did they talk about? Are they happy? Are they sad? Etc.
I've seen also a group called 12 Labs doing that.
They do it a little bit differently, but yes, they do it. They do that as well. They're more like a Google search of media. Yeah.
And then I'll ask you auto editing, because I'm going to just bring that up. Those are the 4 that you covered and demoed. Auto editing, of course, is both the fear. Did you do any of I forget the name of it. There's one. It's Veed, I think, is one. Did you do any of the consumer versions, or did you show off?
No, and there's a very specific reason for not doing that. I believe AI tools will make us better and more efficient editors. I don't believe AI will replace us. Our jobs will be displaced, meaning what we do in those jobs will be slightly different. And I think it would be extraordinarily disingenuous and fear-mongering to bring in tools that purport to auto-edit and say, here's a technology that says they can replace you, because they're light years different. So I didn't think demoing something like that would be applicable for the professionals in the audience who are editors.
I think that's where I want to kind of cue into the thread, because of course CMM Edit said, really enjoyed, lots of good info, had a great night. I've always been the camp, AI isn't something we should fear, well, Skynet excluded. And then talks about, embracing some of the things that they saw, chopping up casting reels. What I think is really fascinating and shows up a bunch is, or am I right, who is talking about the ethical issues tied to the technology, the zero oversight. And the only reason I bring it up isn't because I agree or disagree, but in the same sense that there was an early researcher right before ChatGPT 3.5 hit, who's like, it's real. It has consciousness.
The godfathers of AI left Google, and I think he said it's an existential threat. I think he may have said that, but yeah, he was in the news cycle speaking about that. We really need to rein it in.
Yeah, the criticisms about oversight and where it's getting its training material are always going to be right now a constant gray area. But I just loved how inside of this thread, people like a well-respected ape man said as someone who's just beginning their professional career, this presentation helped me put all this stuff into perspective. You approach it with reason. I realize now I can't avoid it, even if it makes my fear for my career in the future. I'm way better off if I keep up with it and learn how to best use these tools with the ethics and legality in mind. Thanks for being active and sharing with us. Hey, Michael, that's the way it's been for all new technologies, is that you learn, adapt, and at some point it becomes, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just grab the calculator to do the 10-digit computation? We have spreadsheets now. You don't need a slide rule.
One of the things I talked to Zach Arnold about this on his podcast not too long ago, is that there will come a day in the not too distant future where AI is generating content, and then we have AI curate that content for us to consume. And the things that are going to get through that are the original stories. It's not going to be a rehash of something that's already been done. And if you leave AI to its own devices, it's going to redo what's already been done, because that's how it's been trained. So,
and what happens when it starts to get trained? What happens when it starts to get trained on other AI generative work and becomes generative of generations? My running joke is that I can't wait for there to be an AI email model to summarize about the AI spam that I'm getting and the AI platitudes I get from people communicating with me because they don't have time to do it, and it's just a bunch of AIs talking to each other and watching each other's work.
That's taking it to the nth degree. I'm sure there'll be some kind of regulation that anything AI has to be tagged or marked or something as AI. But I don't think we'll get to that day.
I don't think it's going to point out. Yeah, I agree 100%. But I think that if you have not seen Michael's presentation, if you couldn't be in Los Angeles, totally worth watching. And it's a fast moving space is all I can say. I mean, it sometimes feels like it's been years since ChatGPT 5 came out. Years. I want to bring us to another long form item. This one was suggested by you, unlike the last one. Turning down work and the importance of boundaries, even in strike times. This might be a divisive post, but hear me out. This is from Crew Cutter 15. I've told myself I have the following rules for who I work with. Clients need to meet 2 of these criteria. Pays well, nice to work with, has quality work that I can put in my reel. I'll work with a jerk as long as they pay me well and have great work. Or I'll work with subpar content not for air if it pays well and the people are nice. Or I'll work for low pay if it's interesting content with nice people. Hey, Michael, doesn't that sound like good, fast, cheap pick 2?
It also
my favorite
sounds
line,
like,
by the way, our
Norm
Holland, our friend Norm Holland, gave me the best. Our dearly departed friend Norm Holland of USC's film school, cut Heathers and a Cotton Club and some other films. Phenomenal teacher, phenomenal human being. Gave me the best line about good, fast, cheap pick 2. Which one do you want to give up? And it has become a maxim for me.
It reminds me a lot of, and I'm going to butcher his name because I always forget, Neil Gaiman?
Sure, Gaiman.
Sure.
Pretty sure it's Gaiman.
He had a commencement speech many years ago, and he said the rules for whether you're valued at work, and there's three kind of pillars there. There's you do good work, you show up on time, and people like you, and you only have to do 2 of them. If you fail, the work isn't so good. I don't know. He shows up on time and he's great to be around. Oh, okay, we can keep them. Or they do great work, but they're always late. But they're fun to talk to. That's enough. We can keep them. And I immediately thought of that when I saw this. I think what Crew Cutter 15 has that a lot of us wish we had is that's a good problem to have, right? To be able to cherry pick clients.
Well, Crew Cutter, they point out this is the problem with this client is they're difficult. They're international, and that may or may not be a culture issue. They're brash and unpredictable over email. He pays decent but not great. And what I love here, and I'm going to read this verbatim, what put him in the more worth it than not category was amazing work he gave me. But it came to light that he's a rule against freelancers posting work done on their reels. No other reason than his own ego. The work is public and not owned by him. The rule came to light recently, and he's the only client of about a dozen I've worked for that has a rule like this. And for me, this restriction combined with lower pay and bad attitude tipped him into the not worth working for category. I turned down the job he offered, called asking why. I was honest but non-judgmental. I said I wasn't saying he was wrong or I was right about posting work. I'm right. But his restriction just made it hard for me to justify the project. He either needed to loosen the posting rule or increase the wages. I love that conversation. And of course, he refused to do either. And, the hardest part about being brave enough to put this post out there is there are days where some people, a lot of us are going, am I making enough money to keep the lights on? And here's somebody saying, I'm going to give up the okay paying brash client because I can't do something with the work. You want to run through some of the comments with me?
Sure. I think in a perfect world where it's not where there's enough work to go around. I think in theory, I stand by Crew Cutter 15 all day, every day. Though I know that sliding scale of they're difficult or they're not paying enough or their rules are too strict is certainly going to change when you're in an economic downturn. So 100%, while I agree with this in principle, go ahead.
100%. I'll say to you, as a really interesting question, I wonder if the client said, oh, shit, I'll just be nicer to you. I wonder if that would have made it easy. I'll be the easiest client ever. I wonder if that would have made a difference. Just curious. Hey, I threw out right at the beginning, quoted, he either needed to loosen the posting rule, increase the wages. He refused to do either. I wish him the best of luck. It's 100% what he should have done or she should have done. Mad King Soup. I don't even ask for the quality work to put on my reel anymore. Nobody wants to see it. They're just interested in brands. What an interesting counterpoint to, the real talk. Hey, if you've got McDonald's on there, I don't really care. If you've got Nike on your reel, do I really care if I'm doing commercial work? No, you got Nike. You must be good, right?
I don't know if I agree with some of those data points, but I certainly get if you landed that job, you must know what you're doing. So, I'll hire you.
Postmerk, who another person with great content. If the completed work is posted publicly, could you link to that? And Crew Cutter comes back with, I do have some clients who requested this, no problem, I get it, but this guy took it to the next level. He has no legal enforcement. The moment I link to it or even say that I edited, he claimed it would be a violation of the confidentiality agreement. Insane, and there's no language in there about it. Often when we get involved with that discussion, by the point where you're fighting over the terms in the contract, things have gone south. Very rarely is it an easy recovery.
Also, I mean, what about repeat work, right? Not that, I'm going to shame you and, you'll never work in this industry again, but also what if they come back in a year and say, we have something else we want you to cut, but now you don't have that opportunity because of this. So, I think looking down the road a little bit too, if it could be reoccurring work.
What I love about you picking this is this spicy peanut sauce line. Right on. Love your 2 out of 3 criteria. I've always done the same, but without acknowledging it officially like that. And that's where I think the real joy of this thread is that whether you're really experienced or not, this is a great criteria test around clients. Tiki Thunder throws out there, this is amazing. Now that I get not everybody may be at the same point in their career, but this is 100% how you handle it. For everyone else reading this, notice the lack of drama or fireworks. It's just business, but professional, courteous, and firm. Both sides stuck to their guns and then parted ways. Love it.
You don't find that on Reddit much.
Hey, no. It's been bad. It's been bad on Reddit in general, at every level. Still, it's. I think that's still the best sort of general forms out there in that regard. Future Space Cadet, I mean, I definitely like to take on clients that have quality work I desire, but I'll tell you what, if they're nice and they pay well, I don't give a good goddamn if their piece makes my portfolio. Work is work, baby. I always want to ask, because my general thing is yes. What if it was somebody who had something completely offensive to their world perspective? It was the opposite political ideology. It was, if you were a vegan and it's like for the meatpacking industry. I'm always curious about how far down that moral gray line we can go. Any thoughts?
Well, I actually brought this up to a mutual friend of ours at NAB a couple years ago, and she cuts political ads. And she said that the company she works for, she kind of knows what work they do. So she knows going in, they're going to be working probably, left side of the aisle or right side of the aisle. So she kind of knows, what camp she's going to be in, and if that aligns with her political ideologies. Some other folks may not be able to do that. But I've always felt that as an employer, if I have a creative that objects to something morally, I should seek to understand. And if it's within my ability, assign it to somebody else if your business is big enough to accommodate multiple creatives. But I think there's also life isn't perfect, and there are other viewpoints to your own. And unless they really set you off like massively, then kind of bite your lip and do it. And I know that line is different for everyone, right? Some folks can say, look, I'm far right, but I'll work on stuff that's far left. But there's also some folks that say, look, this is triggering for me and I don't want to work on this. And if I have to work for this, I won't work for you. There's a scale there.
There's a scale, and where I, for better or worse, I enjoy when it can be done without triggering people. I love to see where people's gray lines exist. I love also these really clear lines like 2 out of 3. And I think this is the perfect button for this particular section. JLAV asks, can you DM me his info? I'll work for that douche. And I go, that's hustling, man. That's hustling at its finest. All right. So where we went, we summarized Reddit. We did our Ask Professional pieces. We talked about our short form. We talked about our long form. That's going to bring us to our dopamine hits. Today's dopamine hit, brought to you by Michael Kamas, is called GPT Engineer. I'm sorry?
GPT Engineer. I've been spending a ton of time on GitHub just because I'm not a coder. I'm a hack at best. But one of the things that a promise of AI is that it can assist coders and programmers. And the goal of the GPT-Engineer repo is to feed a plain word prompt into the application. Like, I want to create a game of Centipede or Snake, as the example is in here. And the software, the GPT Engineer, will iterate on that prompt to create that application. And then you can refine that by answering its clarifying questions, like, should this be playable on a computer or on a console? Should it be black and white or color? These different questions that will then influence the AI underneath to build this application. And it's in its infancy, but I've already been able to generate, like, between us talking, Jeff, I had it build code that would go to a certain website database, use my credentials, scrape my data, and return it in a CSV or Excel document so that I can repurpose it.
Okay, it's good that you did it before. It's good that you did it before Reddit's API costs, because you would have exceeded it and it would have cost you $2 million.
I did it on a site that I knew it was okay, or on my own sites. I don't think you should be scraping sites you don't have access to. But the fact that I didn't have to write all those different Python scripts and all those classes and keep, what do I have sitting locally versus what do I have to install? What are the requirements? It just did it all. And if I type something wrong, it would say, what do you mean by this? So it's in the early days.
I got to look at this.
It's a fantastic piece of software.
I'm jealous. I got to look at this. And I've got family stuff planned throughout the weekend, and this looks like a blast. There's one, and I don't know off the top of my head, that somehow they've managed to handle some of the GPT memory issues, like, giving it a deeper
Oh,
memory that where you can
anything
like
LLM. I use it. Anything dash LLM, and it can link to long-term vector embeddings and use ChatGPT.
this is run locally,
Oh,
and that you can
well then.
plug like a large PDF into it, or like a book.
Oh
And
yeah.
for the misses, you might say, "Here's the collected works of Tolkien. Hey, who are the most underappreciated characters, and tell me why." And like,
Pine
I
Pinecone
don't have
has a free account. So you can use long-term memory. It only stores it for a week, but the anything-LLM runs locally on your machine, talks to ChatGPT-4 via API, and also Pinecone by API. So what I've done are documents that are NDA that I can't have scraped, like coding. I've been able to index those and then ask questions on ChatGPT on that document, and it gives me results.
That's fantastic. Um,
What's yours?
the second one is sort of an offshoot of this question. Group to share ideas occasionally. I'm running a media company. I'd love to have like a once a month meeting to talk about things we're learning. I love this idea. With the Reddit insanity having been the way it is right now, I would like you to know. In fact, I wonder if I should be able to load it in a browser. So give me a second. In fact, I'll just say it. We have a Discord for our editors at this point. And I'm logging in. And I probably ought to add, I don't know whether, probably should add directly in here. Here you go. It's called Post Professionals. And let me bring it up on screen so you can see it. Oh, wow. This is actually I think this is neat to me. Let me show you what's going on. This, I think, is one of my other Discord accounts logging in.
You're going to have to narrate, Jeff, because we have some people who are just listening who aren't watching. So make sure
this is a really good point. So first, before I do any of that, the short of it is, one of the reasons why we even picked a different spot to move to, whether it's Squabbles or one of the federated type things, is simply none of them replicate Reddit. And if they're not going to replicate Reddit and they're not easily accessible, why not pick another platform, even though it's not identical? And the one that people have clamored for years that we just haven't been able to get around to was Discord. And so literally last weekend, the 48 hours or so, 72 hours that Reddit was down, I built a Discord and made it live for our editors and published a link. And we've got a fair degree of people out there. And I realize I think I've just logged into Discord using a different user profile. I'm going to log out. If I can figure out how to log out quickly. Yeah, there it is. And I'll log in with the right account. I'm going to share it with us. Here, let's see. I think that's the right account. I'll know in 5 seconds, 4 seconds. No. Oh, it's great. I'll do that later. It's still the wrong one. Can I? No, I can't. So I'll do it with the other account. This is the Discord for our editors. It's called Post Professionals. It's got general forums that are both chat-based and forum-based. It's got both novice and more advanced, as well as software-specific channels. I've been hanging out, checking it out about once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day or so. A little less than I check Reddit, but I'm checking in. I found some great comments there, some great back and forth. I'll give you a secret, Michael. I think that there is a ratio of professionals to people looking in. I feel like this has got like an 80% professional basis. It's a pretty solid basis for a brand new server. The biggest thing I'm trying to figure out, and I would love people to weigh in, I think what makes communities live and die is a level of commitment and a level of involvement. I'm trying to figure out whether to do happy hours once a week, maybe a once a month happy hour for the West Coast, East Coast, maybe some people to step in to go, hey, I'll host the West Coast happy hour. I'll host the East Coast virtual happy hour. Because those sort of community things, it's why the LA Creatives user group is so powerful.
23 years.
Both as a community and as just an entity, is because it's there and accessible by the community, and it's somewhere to be around like people. And while the internet itself, and while our editors and Reddit is a great place, I wanted to provide another outlet for people at some level, and that's what the Discord has become. It's nice so far. Don't know if it's the right way over the long term, but it's a lot of familiar faces. I heard you just joined.
I did. Grinny's Mac invited me, so I've joined.
I wonder who that is. Yeah, so those are our pieces of attention stealing pieces, our dopamine hits, and that wraps episode 4. My name's Greeny's Mac. You can find me at Film Geek. You can find me on Reddit. You can find me now on Discord. You can find me in a bunch of different places. What about you, Michael? Where are we finding you nowadays? AV Guru
At Michael
One?
Thomas on the socials, as well as 5thingsseries.com, shooting an episode this weekend, actually, and also michaelcomas.com.
Can you give us a hint about what the episode's about?
Well, I actually posted on Reddit about it. I asked what AI questions in post-production do you have? And over all the social networks I posted on, I have like 20 pages of replies. So I've had to go in and then organize those by what you're interested in, what topic, and then that's what the episode is based on, what the community has asked for.
That's fantastic. Can't wait for it to go live. Got my side project around AI coming soon as well. With that being said, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching Star Whips. Please be part of the conversation on Discord, on Reddit, on Twitter, wherever you want to reach out to either of us. But it's meant to be a warm, welcoming place in any case. Michael, as always, thank you so much for joining us. We really need to be able to start doing this a little bit live, and I think soon we're going to start bringing in a friend. My goal next week is to get the podcast, the audio-only version, working in general, and we'll see how I do. So thanks for watching. Thanks as always, Michael. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, everyone.